Hey, y'all, and welcome back to another astrology episode. In our last episode, we talked about the sun, and today we're going to discuss Sister Girl, the moon. Okay. So the sun is masculine energy, it's electric, while the moon is feminine energy and it's magnetic. Okay. The sun is the mind, and the mind is expressed in light. That's how you can remember that. The sun is the mind is expressed in light, where the moon is the soul. Okay. That is why the moon controls waters, right? It controls the tide. It controls our emotions. It controls a woman's cycle. It also controls femininity and the growth of plants here on Earth. Okay. Earth is the body. It grounds and supports us. That's mind, body, soul, sun, moon, earth. You get it? You got it? Good. All right. Remember, there is a triplicity to everything, meaning three, not just one, three to everything, including us. Okay. So let's get started. The structure is going to be the same as the last episode for all of the episodes where we're discussing the luminaries. So we'll talk about history first. We'll talk about the moon gods in ancient civilizations, and then we'll talk about the characteristics of the moon and what it's associated with. All right. So the moon is represented primarily by powerful female deities, but again, in Norse mythology, it's flipped around. Okay. So let's talk about the Egyptians first. Now, in ancient Egypt, the moon replaced the sun in the sky at night. It was often represented as Isis ruling beside Osiris, who ruled the underworld, while the moon was ruling the sky. Isis is considered to be the goddess of fertility, of love, of healing, of magic, and the moon. Isis is that girl, period. Okay. She's called by many names. They call her Aset or Eset. She was considered to be the great magician. She is often depicted as a woman wearing throne hieroglyphs on her head and is often shown with wings and an ankh. She is the most important goddess in Egypt, and she is the sister and wife of Osiris and the mother of Horus. But they also had a moon god named Khonsu, who was the god of the moon, fertility, and protection. I just wanted to throw that in there because he's often depicted as being young with a crescent moon on his head. He was the son of Amen and Mut and was associated with the pharaohs. He was multifaceted deity who is linked with a baboon, which is a sacred animal in Egypt. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. So they had Isis, who was the female femininity moon, and they also had Khonsu. Okay. Now in Greece, they had the moon goddess of ancient Greece, and her name was Artemis, who was the twin sister to Apollo. She was the goddess of wild animals, hunting, wilderness, childbirth, young girls, and virginity. She was always depicted as holding arrows and a bow. Artemis was a force, okay? She was not to be fucked with, okay? You did not want to get on her bad side because her reaction was always fierce. Like she once turned someone into a deer because he stumbled across her while she was bathing, right? She was bathing with minor deities that have features of nature. Now, this was brutal because he had a pack of hounds who would tear deers to pieces. His own pack of hounds end up tearing him to pieces. Okay, so she was not one to play with. So in Ephesus, which was a part of Minor Asia, Artemis was depicted as a multi-breasted fertility goddess, but when it was conquered by Rome, she was merged with Diana the Huntress, who is the Roman lunar goddess. Okay, so that's Roman's moon goddess. All right, so I'll put up pictures of the multi-breasted version of Artemis because what the fuck is this? I just think y'all need to see it because I can't be the only one living with this. I also put up a picture of Diana as well. These two were, again, like I said, merged together. However, the Greeks viewed the moon god similar to the sun god in Egypt. The moon goddess depend on the moon cycles. They had Selene, and she was the daughter of Titans Hyperon and Thea, sister to Helios. She's often associated with the full moon. She's often depicted as being young with a moon on her forehead, riding a chariot, being pulled by two horses. She is said to move across the sky every night, and she represents the serene nature of the night sky and how time passes with the phases of the moon. A lot of art and literature is inspired by her, Selene. Okay. Now, when I say that they viewed the moon, how the Egyptians viewed the sun. I'm talking about depending on what state the moon was in or what stage the moon was in, they had a different deity that represented that state, okay? Artemis, who was daughter of Zeus and Leto, associated with the new moon. Okay, so we have Selene, who associated with the full moon, Artemis associated with the new moon. Okay, Hecate with the waning moon and is considered the goddess of the underworld. She is associated with magic and witchcraft. She is the triple form deity representing the maiden, the mother, and the crone. She is often depicted with torches and a key or snakes. She is also associated with crossroads, ghosts, and necromancy. So a lot of you may be familiar with who Hecate is. She is the deity of witchcraft. So anybody who does any type of herbal alchemy, oh, I like that. Anybody who does any type of herbal alchemy is familiar with Hecate. Now, Selene is the goddess of the moon, and Artemis is the goddess of wilderness and hunt, while Hecate is powerful and mysterious, often associated with witchcraft, both light and dark magic. Okay. I'll put up pictures so you guys can see them as well. Now, the Romans had a different goddess, Luna, but she's also known as Diana, who is often associated with Greek goddess Selene, which we talked about before. Luna is derived from the Latin word lucerne, which means to shine. She represented the diving embodiment of the moon and is the female counterpart to the sun god Sol. She is also a triple goddess along with Diana and Hecate. Luna is associated with the cycles of the moon, the tides, and night. She's often shown with a chariot pulled by 2 horses or oxes. Most of the time it's oxes, but sometimes she's depicted with horses, and she's linked to childbirth. Okay, Luna was widely accepted, being worshipped by the elites and common folks, and she's also associated with animals in the hunt as well. Okay, so the Mayans' lunar deity is called Ixchel, which means Lady Rainbow, or she of the pale face. Now, she was the goddess of medicine and midwifery. She was known for causing floods and rainstorms on Earth when she would turn over her jug that she is often depicted carrying. She is also often depicted with a crescent moon on her forehead. She represents fertility, childbirth, and the cycles of life and death. Her story is so cute, y'all. She fell in love with the Mayan sun god Itzamna, and their love was so strong that they birthed the stars and the moon. I thought that was fucking romantic, okay? Y'all, I'm heavily ruled by Venus. So when I hear little cute little love stories, I'm like, what? He did what? They did what? Yeah, I thought she was so cute. And she is a brown deity. So I'm gonna put her up here because shout out to the brown people. Okay. I didn't talk about the Mayans in the sun worship episode, but their sun god's name was Itzamna. Okay. I'll try to put up a picture of him as well so y'all can see both of them. Now, the Celtics, they had several moon goddesses. Okay. So I'm gonna put up a picture of all of them, but I'm just gonna run through them kind of quickly. They had Rhiannon, who was the Welsh goddess of fertility, rebirth, wisdom, magic, transformation, beauty, poetry, and art. Shout out to you, girl. Use that, girl. They had Morgan, who is the Irish goddess who represented war and fate, often seen as a crow. They had Erinrod, who is the Celtic goddess of the moon and stars. They had Ain, who is the Celtic goddess of love, growth, light, and cattle. She is the light of the moon. Okay. And they had Cerduin, and she was the Celtic goddess who is the keeper of knowledge, which is indicated by the cauldron of knowledge that she carries with her. This cauldron is full of lunar wisdom, inspiration, and intuition. She's considered the goddess of the underworld, and she's often depicted as a crone and mother, and is honored at the full moon. Okay, so when I say crone, what I mean by that is like an old lady. Okay, like an old lady. The Babylonians had Nanasun, also known as Sin. He is the god of the moon, wisdom, and fertility. He is often depicted as a young bull with thick horns. He has perfect limbs with a beautiful blue bird. He is associated with the cycles of the moon and has a crescent moon on his forehead. He is also linked with agriculture. He is called the father of gods. Okay, now God Nanasun, who they call Sin, was a male lunar deity. Hindu, they had Rohini, and Rohini is the Hindu moon goddess and the partner of Chandra, the moon god. She is considered the red goddess or Rohini devil. She is usually depicted as an orange-red star, Aldebaran, which is the brightest star in the Taurus constellation. She is one of 27 daughters. She's associated with the cycles of the moons and the tide. She's the symbol for fertility, prosperity, and abundance. She is not the only moon goddess in Hindu mythology. Chandra is the moon god, and he is the ruler of plants and vegetation. He's often shown as being a young man holding a cub in one hand and a lotus in the other. He is seen riding his chariot pulled by 10 horses or antelopes across the sky every night. Chandra has several names: Soma, Rajanapati, Kushparaka, and Indu. I know I messed some of them up. I mean no harm by that, I promise. But I'm gonna put a picture of him, and then he has like him riding like these antelopes, which literally look like fucking reindeers, but him riding them across the sky, and he has 3 goddesses in his chariot. Okay. And then in Norse, we have the moon god, who is the brother to the sun goddess Sol. His name is Mani, and he's often shown as being handsome and young. He is associated with the moon phases and deeply connected to the lunar cycle. He is linked to the ocean tides, and his horse is supposedly connected with the sea. Now, Mani and Sol were placed in 2 chariots as punishment from the gods for their parents' ignorance, and they were forced to ride across the sky to guide the moon and the sun's path. Okay, so in Norse mythology, this was actually punishment for them. So those are the moon gods and goddesses. All right. And now we'll talk about what the moon is associated with. Okay. So the moon is typically associated with the number 2, and the number 7 is also associated with the moon. The symbol is a waxing crescent. Just Sailor Moon, like literally a crescent moon. Like if you're about to get a moon tattoo, this is probably the moon that you would get. That's the moon symbol. Okay. The day that is associated with is Monday, Moon Day, Monday. Okay. The colors it's associated with are white and silver. The parts of the body it's associated with are your stomach, your breast, your digestion, your fluids, and your secretions. It's associated with the metal silver. The stones that it's associated with are crystal, mother of pearl, and the moonstone. Now, I don't know if y'all remember the Olsen twins was in a movie back in the day called Double Double Toil and Trouble, and they had stole the moonstone from the witch.
Oh, good. Just hand it over.
First let Kelly go.
First, hand it over.
You go first.
You go first.
You go first.
You go first. Oh, for goodness sake. Just put the moonstone down here on the floor.
Yeah, moon, Hecate, witchcraft, the moonstone, they're all connected, okay? I'm going to put a little clip in so y'all can see that. Now, the herbs in the incense are going to be camphor and frankincense. The plants are going to be melon, broom tops, and willow. So the chakra that the moon is associated with is the sacral. Now, when you think about it, the sacral is associated with water. If you want to cleanse your sacral chakra, what you need to do is envision waters moving. Okay. There's also another chakra that's called Chandra, like the Hindu god, or the Bindu chakra, which is called the moon center. The ruler of the moon, or the zodiac that the moon rules, is Cancer. Think about this. People always say Cancer is the most emotional sign, but it's really not the most emotional sign to me. It's the most manipulative sign to me, and that's a whole nother story. Okay. But they do experience a wider range of emotions, and it's because it is ruled by the moon. Okay. Now, the house that it rules is the 4th house. The 4th house has to do with home life, roots, family, self-care, emotions, foundations, the mother. That's why they always call the moon the mother, the sun the father. Okay. Children, women, and femininity. The moon is exalted in Taurus, and it falls in Scorpio. The cycle of the moon is 28 days. It's about 29 and a half, but it's 28 days. And the tarot card that it's associated with is the high priestess. Okay. When you look at the high priestess, what is she? She's like, telling you, whenever you get this card, she's telling you to trust your intuition, that something hasn't been revealed to you yet. Okay. There's a moon behind her and darkness behind her. Okay. So let's talk about next what it symbolizes in the ancient world, esoterically in the modern world. Okay. So the ancients, they thought that the moon's light was a reflection of the sun and represented the energy of reflection and how we react to things. Okay. So the moon represents our shadow side that exists in us all. The cycles of the moon affect life on Earth, the tides of the ocean, the growth of plants, and women's menstrual cycles. It represents change and potential. During the full moon, when it is the brightest, it represents the potential for creativity, beauty, and romance. But during the new moon or its darkest, it shows that our shadow side is present in everything and in every soul and represents the fear, uncertainty, unkindness, and dishonesty in everything. Okay. Now, Shakespeare considered the moon to be the 7 ages of man because it represents nature and governs the period of birth and infancy, hence it being represented by the number 2. Okay. So the moon represents how we feel and how we react. The moon also keeps us safe and nurtured. So when you do not feel your feelings, the moon placement in your birth chart will act protective and defensive. Okay. For me, I'm a Scorpio moon. Typically, we need space. We need to isolate in order for us to recharge, and we need to be away from people. Okay. Your moon is what helps, is how you nurture yourself. Okay. So if you have trust issues, it can be hard not to be this way towards everyone, even though they may have good intentions towards you, because if you're not feeling your feelings, you won't feel safe and you won't feel nurtured. Okay. So this is how we want to be reassured and how we reassure others as well. So this means right touch, words, actions, and gifts. Since the moon is the reflection from the sun, so it benefits by helping see others and actions from the perspective of other people. The moon helps us nurture the infant or the child in us. Okay. This is what the ancients believed. Esoterically, the moon was considered the divine dreamer. The moon was considered to be the most mutable planet. To them, the moon also reflects the soul. It represents emotional nature, the unconscious and subconscious, instinct, dreams, intuition, and the inner world. In many cultures, the moon represented someone going from a maiden, which is waxing, mother, which is full moon, and crone, which is waning. This is what the pagan and neo-pagans consider to be the triple goddess of Hecate. They also believe the moon is related to the underworld, memory, mothering, nurturing, and fertility. The sun and the moon are opposite properties and energies, but they are connected, okay? So electricity and magnetism are the two polarities. They're two extremes, but they're the same thing being experienced at extreme sides of the spectrum, okay? Both of them are the light energy. And when you think about this, the sun is the light, the moon comes in the darkness, okay? So light and darkness are the same thing. Darkness is just the absence of light. All right. Same thing with electricity and magnetism. Magnetism is just the absence of electricity. Okay. So that's how they're the same thing, but they're not. But they're opposite things, but they're connected. Okay. So the sun has direct energy, which fuels the ego, and the moon has indirect energy, which is purely instinctual. Okay. So it's internal in nature. The sun is male and the moon is female, but not in the terms of gender that we understand. Okay. We're talking about masculine energy, which is electric, versus feminine energy, which is magnetic. Okay. So in modern astrology, the moon represents the physical, the emotional, the instinct, the familiarity, the maternal, the feeding, the nurture, intuition, cyclical nature, feminine, rhythms and rituals, and security. In modern astrology, they believe the same about the moon being the triple goddess like the Greek and North myths. Current astrologers believe that the gravitational pull of the moon generates the tides, and this is connected to the natural and biological cycles of Earth. So the moon governs automatic processes, but let's talk about what else they think it governs. They believe that the moon influences early childhood before we have awareness of solar individuality and personality begins to develop. Okay, so the moon helps you to respond accordingly to your instinctive reactions and natural habits or behavioral patterns to ensure our survival. The moon also rules intuition. It helps you to respond accordingly to your feelings and intuition. It's often associated with hidden wisdom, which I talked about, the high priestess who something has not been revealed to you yet. Hidden wisdom. Okay, esoteric knowledge, esoteric wisdom also falls into this high priestess tarot card. Okay, the moon also represents the relationship to the mother or whoever plays the mother role in your life. It shows what nurturing means to us and how we feel about our mother's influence on relationships that we create and how we nurture ourselves. Okay. Again, I am a Scorpio moon. Scorpio moons come with a lot of mama trauma. Okay. Me and my brother are both Scorpio moons. Okay. They come with a lot of mama trauma. Depending on what your moon sign is, it tells you how your nurturing relationships were with the mother figure in your life. Okay. The moon represents self-care and food. It actually falls under this, which we got to eat. It shows how we feed ourselves, like actually feed ourselves in the things that make us feel fed spiritually. So it's not just actual food, it's the things that feed us spiritually as well. So think about this. Most people cope with their emotions by doing what? Emotionally eating. This is the correlation, okay? And the last component is relationships, because the people closest to us are the only people who tend to see this emotional nature or this side to us that's ruled by the moon. Okay. The moon tells us what feels right to us. And if someone butts heads on an emotional level, it can make or break a relationship. The moon is what connects you to your family and the people that you resonate with. This is what draws us to the people and places that feel or make us feel like home. Okay. So like your moon sign is literally how you nurture yourself, how your relationships will be, how you perceive people, how you react to emotional situations, all of that. So boom, that's it. That's the moon. I hope you guys again enjoyed this episode. That concludes our episode. Next week, we're going to talk about Mercury. So please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I love y'all deep. And until next time.